Accident. I was lying in a hospital bed, paralyzed, confused, broken. The world around me was moving, but I was still, not just physically, but emotionally. And I remember looking at the ceiling, asking the same question over and over again. Why me? It's strange how pain makes everything louder. The doubts, the fears, the voices of others telling you that maybe now it's time to accept your limits. People meant well, they really did. They would come to visit, smile politely, and say things like, "Now you should rest," or "Maybe your time for big dreams is over." And they'd whisper those words gently, as if they were protecting me from disappointment. But what they didn't understand was that they weren't just speaking to a person who had been through an accident. They were speaking to a soul that still remembered what it meant to feel alive. And for me, feeling alive had always come from my passion, from painting, from speaking, from expressing what I carried inside. There was one day during my recovery when the nurse asked if I wanted to do something different. I said yes. I asked for a canvas and some paints. I hadn't held a brush in months. My hands were weak. My back ached. But when I touched that canvas with color for the first time in that new version of myself, something shifted inside me. It wasn't about creating a masterpiece. It wasn't about skill. It was about reconnecting with that part of me that had been buried under pain and pity and fear. That day, I didn't just paint. I started to breathe again. You see, passion doesn't knock on your door only when everything is perfect. It shows up in the dark. When you feel like everything's been taken away, it whispers to you, gently but persistently, "I'm still here." And if you listen closely, you'll realize that it's not just a study or a dream. It's a reminder of who you are. In that hospital room, with tubes in my arms and uncertainty all around me, I discovered something no one had taught me before. That the things we love are not separate from us. They are a part of us. You can take away someone's mobility. You can even take away their ability to walk, to run, to dance. But you can't take away the fire that lives in their heart unless they choose to let it burn out. There were moments when I doubted myself. Of course I did. I would wake up and wonder what future I was even trying to build. Who would want to hear my voice? Who would look at my art now? Who would even care? But then I'd remember something very important. I didn't fall in love with painting to impress others. I didn't find joy in speaking to be praised. I fell in love with these things because they made me feel connected to myself, to life, to something bigger. Sometimes we make the mistake of thinking our passion has to lead to fame or money or recognition. But the truth is, your passion is valuable simply because it brings you back to life. You might be an artist whose work no one has seen yet. You might be a writer who hides your poetry in a drawer. You might be someone who sings in the shower and never on stage. But the beauty of your passion lies not in the audience it gathers, but in the way it touches your soul, the way it makes you feel like yourself again. Passion has no expiry date. It doesn't fade with age or circumstance. Life may take many turns, some gentle, some painful, but the flame inside you doesn't disappear unless you stop feeding it. And sometimes, even the smallest act of creating, writing one line, sketching one image, dancing alone in your room is enough to keep that flame alive. When we give up on our passion, we're not just walking away from a talent or a dream. We're abandoning a part of ourselves that was meant to survive everything, the storms, the setbacks, the silence. We are giving up on a gift that was planted inside us for a reason, and I truly believe every person has that gift. It doesn't matter if the world recognizes it. What matters is whether you recognize it, whether you honor it, whether you keep choosing it, even on the days you feel like giving up on yourself. There will be people who won't understand. They'll tell you to be practical, to settle down, to do what's safe. But passion is not safe. Passion is wild. It's unpredictable. It takes you to places logic can't. And the most courageous thing you'll ever do is to keep choosing your passion in a world that tells you to play small. I know what it feels like to lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if your story is over. But I also know what it feels like to pick up a paintbrush when your hands are shaking, and to speak your truth when your voice is trembling. And that's what passion does. It doesn't wait for you to be perfect. It doesn't expect you to have all the answers. It just asks you to show up as you are. And when you do, something magical happens. You begin to feel whole again, even if your body is broken. You begin to feel strong again, even when your spirit is tired. You begin to remember who you were before the world tried to make you forget. And that, to me, is the real power of passion. I remember the first time I tried to paint again after the accident. The colors looked the same. The canvas looked the same, but I wasn't the same. I was scared. My body didn't move the way it used to. My fingers trembled. My spine ached. Even holding the brush felt like a mountain I had to climb. And for a moment, I hesitated. I thought, maybe it's over. Maybe the thing that once gave me so much joy is now beyond my reach. But there was another voice, softer, kinder. The voice of that little girl inside me who had once stayed up all night drawing stars with crayons. And she whispered, just try, one more time. So I did. And the moment that brush touched the canvas, even with pain, even with fear, I felt a spark inside me. It wasn't just about painting anymore. It was about reclaiming a part of me that the accident hadn't taken away. It was about telling myself that even if my life had changed, my soul hadn't forgotten how to dream. That's the beauty of passion. It waits for you, silently, patiently. And the moment you come back to it, it welcomes you without judgment. People think being passionate means being perfect. It doesn't. It means being willing to try, willing to fail, willing to look foolish sometimes, and most importantly, willing to do it again and again. Not because you have to, but because something deep inside you needs to. Passion doesn't demand applause. It demands presence. It demands your heart. It demands that you stop hiding and start showing up, not for the world, but for yourself. We live in a time where everything is measured. Likes, views, followers. And in that noise, we start believing that our passion has no worth unless it's seen, shared, celebrated. But real passion has nothing to do with numbers. It has everything to do with meaning, with connection, with truth. I have seen people create their most beautiful work in silence, with no audience, no stage, no validation. Just love, your love for what they do. And that kind of love is powerful. It transforms, it heals, it saves. There were days when I didn't want to speak. Days when my body was in pain and my heart was exhausted. But then someone would message me and say, your words gave me hope. Or a child would draw me with angel wings and say, you make me believe in miracles. And in those moments, I would remember why I began. I didn't choose to speak because I was fearless. I chose to speak because I had felt fear, and I didn't want anyone else to feel alone in it. That's what passion does. It takes your pain and turns it into a path for you and for others. So when you think about giving up on your passion, ask yourself this: what would your life feel like without it? Not what your parents want, not what society expects, not what is trending, but what makes. And the truth is, you don't need anyone to believe in your passion but you. The moment you believe, the moment you commit, the moment you say, this matters to me, something incredible happens. Life begins to open doors. The right people begin to show up. And even if they don't, Even if the journey is long and lonely, it will still be worth it because you're not just chasing a goal, you're honoring your soul. Your passion is not a luxury, it's your lifeline. So even if the makes you feel alive, what makes time disappear? What makes your heart beat a little faster? Even when you're tired, that's your passion. And even if the world doesn't understand it, even if you don't have all the answers yet, you owe it to yourself to hold on to it. You don't have to quit your job to follow your passion. You don't need a spotlight or a platform. All you need is a little courage. The courage to take 10 minutes a day and dedicate it to what you love. The courage to keep creating even if no one claps. The courage to fail and try again and again and again. Because every time you show up, you grow. Every time you try, you get stronger. And every time you choose your passion, you are choosing yourself. There is a kind of strength that comes from not giving up, even when everything around you says you should. And that strength doesn't shout, it whispers. It says, maybe I can't do it like I used to, but I can do it my way. It says, maybe I don't have all the tools, but I have the heart. It says, even if no one sees me, I see myself, and that's enough. Your passion doesn't have to look the way it used to. It can evolve, it can grow with you. Maybe you loved dancing once, and now you can't dance the same way. But you can teach, you can choreograph, you can inspire others. Maybe you loved writing, and now the words come slowly. But even one sentence written with love can change a life, including yours. There's always a way, not always the way you imagined, but a way that's true to who you are now. I have learned that the most beautiful creations are born from the most difficult journeys. And sometimes, the passion that once made you smile is the same one that will help you survive. It becomes your anchor, your light, your voice when you don't have the strength to speak. And when you hold on to it, even in the dark, something inside you begins to glow again. Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait until you feel ready, because passion doesn't wait. It's already there, inside you, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be lived. Whether you're young or old, whether you're confident or confused, whether you're standing or sitting in a wheelchair, you are still allowed to dream. You are still allowed to begin again.